Hey y'all, I meant to do this review over a month ago, the Showtime miniseries Love Fraud. And I felt that there was real value in being able to discuss this show, not just because of women can be taken advantage of, men as well, based on whom you date, marry, or get entangled with, but the legal aspect. I was really impressed with the Bells bondman, and I'm going to jump ahead here to give this summary. Anytime someone's moving super fast and you may feel like, oh, they're really love bombing me. Oh, they're really just affectionate. Oh, they genuinely like me. I'm not saying they can't like you, love you, want to be with you. But when it's moving so fast, even you're kind of shocked by the process. Consider this: people have motives and they could be looking to get in some type of entanglement legally where you're more responsible for things than they are. Or number two, where if they do commit a fraud against you, what can you do? They're married, it's your spouse. So it's not really a theft when you have community property or communal sharing of assets. With that being said, let's get into Love Fraud. I hope y'all got the chance to look into it. If you haven't, I advise watching it. It's generally about a Caucasian male who goes out of his way to dote on, love, grab affection and attention from middle-aged Caucasian women. If there was another race involved or ethnicity or creed, we didn't get all that information. We saw the women we saw. Simple as that. I appreciate these ladies for speaking out because although it may be embarrassing, you may feel like, oh, this is so shameful. This is super suspect. What's the point of discussing it? It's my fault. It really helped because this male person had multiple wives in different areas, girlfriends as well. He would hop, baby, you had basically a 90-day expiration tag fooling with this dude, and he wasn't joking. So here's the background, and here are the top issues. I thought of him as a sociopath. There is a difference. I wish I could do like sociopath, psychopath, and let y'all get the like definitions of it based on a DSM-5 medical term. But let's just go with basic vernacular in the community. He ain't bipolar. He ain't special needs. This dude needs his tail whooped. Like old school in a circle. Take your time. Putting pain on him. I hate to sound like that, but once he spoke for himself, that is what gravitated me towards, oh, you need real punishment. Not just 6 months in jail for some bogus BS stuff. It was like, he is the epitome. If you ever watched that show on Netflix about Joe, he summarized that, the actor that portrays the character, that in America, there's just something about, we want to believe the white man. And so the end game is they want to believe white men. And he gets the benefit from that. So here's number one. He doted on this lady in Kansas. Even her kids were like, oh, well, that's nice. Even she thought, oh, this must be real love. And I understand where we get this bias from. We get it from TV. We get it from media, books, movies, whatever you watch, read, or digest. We always feel like, oh, love conquers all. And if he moves really fast, that means he's really into me. Whereas sometimes take the red flags or take the quickness as the hesitation point and be able to identify, yeah, no, this isn't right. So he was all into, let's get married. Let's move in together. She had teenage girls. That would have made me pump the brakes. Like, we can be married, but I don't want you around my kids. I don't know you long enough, or I don't know you well enough. We haven't established really who you are. Like, honestly, you can get a sense for someone in my purview because you may have intuition I don't have. But people change even after 10, 15 years of marriage. I can't imagine, 3 months and then I bring you around my children or a vulnerable population. It could have been my elder parents. I'm suspicious of all things like that. Like, no, let's keep our respectful space. I'll move in with you. We can live together, but that's me. I have my own issues there and I'm really serious about it. He's super intelligent to some extent. This is what led me to sociopath over psychopath. At any rate, they all discussed how in the middle of the night he wouldn't sleep. That's cue number one. If you've ever been around someone who's a high functioning person with borderline personality disorder or a mood disorder, neglecting sleep. Even those bipolar, but when they're in a manic episode, sleep is usually one of the things that eludes them. And you have to go like, okay, pay attention to the eyes if they gloss over. And I never used to think there was such a thing as crazy eyes. I still won't use those words. I think is diminishing. But if you look, their eyes gloss over and it's like they're checked out. They're not there with you. And you have to be like, did you hear what I just said? Can you give it back to me in your own words? Trust me, y'all. I know, telling you what I know, not what I heard. With that, they would catch him watching American Greed. So that's a program, if you're not familiar with it, on cable. And on that cable show, it was always about this guy who would be flossing, finessing, stealing, hustling, backdooring people. I can use a lot of other words, synonyms, to get across the idea of committing fraud against other individuals with a silver tongue or the ability to make it look like he's super successful, super established. And if you just give him a chance, or if you just invest in him, or if you just got involved on this occasion, he'd be able to make you rich too. That man was studying from American Greed. That man was learning from those convicts what went wrong in the plan, how they got caught, and what he needed to avoid from being caught. And so every woman that discussed this. So in general, white guy puts up his profile on Tinder. I appreciate the lady who opened out of Kansas and said, have you seen the dating scene lately? There are people out there with no teeth. It is 2018, 2019, no teeth. I was like, oh my word, she's like me. Teeth matter. They just do. But there is a real conversation to be had as to how is it you're able to date, maneuver in the world, as superficial as Americans can be, or as superficial as everyone say women are. You just show up like Frank from that Showtime show. Oh my word, what is the name of that show that lose me right now? Shameless. Frank is an entire addict of drugs, alcohol. Most times he's sleeping on Skid Row and the bums tell him he smells. He always has something going on, but you know what Frank has going for him? In every episode, in every season that I caught, and I thought about reviewing it, but I'm like, okay, no. Frank has a woman, an invested woman. Either she's there for sex, or she's there to try and take care of him or fix him or something. And I'm like, yo, we need to step back and talk about this as a gender and as a society. How is it you are the least contributing human in society, and yet someone who is established or has more means than you, not to say that's the real measurement of anything, but just a higher caliber person. And it's not something to be ugly or untoward, but let's be real, y'all. We do judge people based off where they live, where they work, what have they accomplished by a certain age. What do you show to say, I'm a full human that has been existing in society and improving myself? Frank has none of that. None of that. He doesn't even actively take care of his kids. And his kids will tell you just stay away from Frank. He's full of it. At any rate, back to your guy with LOVEFraud. That's essentially his situation here. He presents himself as a well-established, well-to-do individual, middle-aged, and you do give him certain, I think in America in general, or most societies, we give people certain credence or accolades simply because of a certain age. If you're young, we think you're flexible, you're physically able, and you're sharp about everything with tech or whatever is trending at that time. And when you're elderly, oh, well, even if we see a married couple, you just assume, oh, they're of older ages. They must have been together 10, 20 years. And you'll learn they just got together 10 days ago. Anywho, back to this fool and how, he's just the typical, I don't want to say neurotic. I don't want to give him a label because I'm not a subject matter expert, but everything about it just looks like he's a narcissist who has the victimhood there. I did question what trauma occurred when he was a child, but I also realized when we start asking those questions, you end up empathizing with the perpetrator more than the victims. And that wasn't my goal here. So he's married at least 7 women. He's with other women. He's gotten women to cash out their 401ks, leave their husbands of 20 years and come start a new life with him. in a whole new city, a whole new state, and open up a seafood restaurant. Boiled bag is ultimately how he got somewhat busted, not well enough. He has a vindictive side as well, where he said his supposedly good friend who defended him relentlessly when other women were trying to warn her about him set her father's boat on fire, and that was it. I do believe he longed for family like he said he wanted it, but at the end of the day, I don't think he knew how to accept it, digest it, because he also double crossed his aunts, and they were clear. His mother was abusive to him. The things she said, the things she physically did to him, of course, it would break any child. And it's a human that developed and never got therapy, never got any like intensive care, outpatient, whatever it took to make him whole again. He just didn't get it. So I don't think he's bouncing from women to women simply because of sex. I think, like he said, he wants the attention, he wants to be loved, and he wants to love others. His just has a much faster expiration date. I guess like a lava or a gnat. Fruit fly. Yeah, there's like a couple of hours. I'm sorry, I'm tickling myself because I'm jumping all around to give a real summary, and that's what this is going to be. And I'll just go episode through episode as I can, or at least combine at least 2 episodes together. But this dude, saw nothing wrong with sitting down with producers of this documentary to give his opinion of why he felt he had been wrong. The fact that there were women who created this website to out him was the main culprit in his life. His mother mistreating him, less of an issue, but everything else. And he would be able to con women, because that's what this is a con man, by saying, I think he had a partial paralysis of his face or something occurred earlier on where he had a medical need. And if you walked up on him, you would go, oh, well, that's logical. Like the dude gives responses that are pretty reasonable and logical. And the concept that he pushes is, well, when my settlement come in, we're going to be rich because the doctors have to pay this much, the doctors have to pay that much. So, of course, women are willing to co-sign, purchase. I wanted to cry for the lady who lost everything and had to move back in with her parents, because how do you start over when you're that age? And how do you lose your entire retirement process of what you plan for yourself? But hey, he has that in common with Bernie Madoff for taking people's retirement. He would want to buy cars, motorcycles, nothing of substance when it came for property, boats, flashy stuff. So this is why I always said, as I'm watching the show unfold, he ain't that kind of crazy. He knows he wants to floss. He knows he wants to look good. He knows he's trying to attract other women. So while he's with you and lulling you in, he's also making plans with someone else. And the only reason why he got caught at any of this, on one instance when the lady was basically letting him know he had to go, he committed domestic violence. It was a battery charge. He skipped town. What we learned, he was already on probation for some other stuff. They called him in, pursued the case, ultimately put out a warrant for his arrest. They had bounty hunters out for him. She was the most astute person in the whole show. The bounty hunter worked for free with all the ladies, but she was trying to be helpful as well. When it crossed state lines, she gave recommendations for someone else. I don't know who would tip him off or who had a sense, or if he had a sense of what he was doing was catching up, but he would always find the most opportune time to escape. He would call a new woman and cry to her. I don't know what it is. Apparently some man told other men, as long as you cry to a woman, she'll work with you. I was very proud of the young lady in Kansas who ignored his tears. She was like, no, you're with my boss, and I thought y'all were a couple. And he would disparage her. Like, no, I don't like her like that. She just won't take a clue. And we've all know some man who's done that, whom they are with you, but they're bad-mouthing you to other people and say it's not that serious, or I was never into her, or I was just trying to get a way out. So that's why I followed her to this country or this city or this town, or I don't even know if that's my baby. She cheated on me. It took my sister to tell me, oh, honey, they all say that. I'm like, what? Because, you hear some things at work and you're like, sir, there's no way you were married for 20 years. No way you raised this child all this time and you had some suspicions and doubts about paternity when the child not only looks like you, but the child has mannerisms that look like you, and I've only met this child 3 times. That kind of situation. So, all in all, Love Fraud truly is simple in and out. It will hold your attention. I've never watched Tiger King on Netflix, but I'm trusting it has to be that kind of train wreck plus 90 Day Fiance. But 90 Day Fiance is more like jovial. I laugh at it, and I don't laugh at a lot of other stuff because it's annoying. But at the end of the day, so I'm trying to figure out how to make this light work so I can stop seeing it reflected in these glasses. But I just want to wear these glasses again. It's worth it checking out if you have Showtime. If you don't, look into it just for the little bit that you can. I have been meaning to do this since December 9th. Here are the questions that we'll go into the episode reviews for. And I'm going to load all this at the same time so you have it. Episode 2, Raquel hired an investigator. He was so quiet and non-communicative. I believe we're dealing with someone who's super intelligent, somewhat intelligent, more of a sociopath, loves to play with marriage, either before God or in the courts, but he does it so he can keep absconding the law, because what can you do? Say my husband stole everything out the bank account? Well, your husband has access legally. He's your husband. And I suspected parental abuse. Lee in Knoxville defends him relentlessly. Let me know if y'all think, was she always in love with him? Did she have a principle for defending him? This is ran long. So look forward to the next 1, 2, 3 points of Love Fraud.